Well, thank you very much. I'll introduce myself. My name is Greg Story. I'm the president of Dale Carnegie Training Japan, and I'll be presenting on how to work on your business, not just in your business today. I'm very impressed that so many of you will come so early in the morning to hear about this, but it tells me that, like me, we find that we're not getting enough of the quality work done that we need to get done. And we tend to find our days are being taken up by rather detail-oriented work. And if we can get more of that high-quality work done, then we'll have a much more productive business. But I'll just start a little bit and talk a little bit about Dale Carnegie, if I can. Okay, try that. The book on the left there was the original book, which was published in 1937, and then a Japanese version in 1938, which they re-released for the 100th anniversary. And we got some copies of that. And the book on the right is an updated version of Dale Carnegie's original book, which is now, well, it's become one of the icon books in business. People in Japan say to me, for management theory, Peter Drucker. For human relations, people skills, Dale Carnegie. And I think that's right. And so we find that the Japanese version has just been released too. This is Hitogokasu 2, just come out. And that sold incredibly 9 million copies in Japan. That's a really large number and consistently comes up in the top 10 of business books being sold, non-fiction business books being sold. And that's because I think the ideas that Dale Carnegie came up with a long time ago are rather universal and they are timeless. We constantly need to know these things. 90% of the Fortune 500 companies are our clients. And in the Fortune 500, there are around about 64 Japanese companies listed, of which I discovered half of them are our direct clients. So we're doing very well on both scales. We now cover 91 countries around the world. This is a very big help to clients who have multi-country businesses. So they can develop something in one country and take it to the whole world. And at the moment, we're doing a project for a Danish company. It's in 34 countries around the world. We're doing tranche number 3. I think it is 3 about now. And so for Japanese companies too, we're taking them into the world in their foreign entities and training the people there as well, which has proven to be very effective. We teach in over 30 languages, and you see there we celebrate our 50th year here in Japan this year, which again is, most people know the name of Dale Carnegie, but they don't realize we've been here since 1963. I asked the headquarters back in New York, I said, you know, we constantly do these surveys after the training on what people think, and we send them off to America and they get checked, you know, the standard of training must be kept very high. I said, well, look, you know, I always see very high scores. I wonder what the aggregate, the total of 5 years of all training would be if I look for satisfaction rates. So I said, okay, give me 5 years, everything. All trainers, all courses, all modules, the works. Put it all in a big bucket and tell me what the satisfaction rate is. And this is what came back, 97.7%. So that tells me that the quality that we try to maintain and the standards we have, we're ISO 9001 certified. We're the only international training company to have that. We're the oldest training company in the world because we keep refreshing ourselves. The standard continues and clients are very happy with it. So we're very proud to see that number. But today our topic is how to work on your business, not just in your business. And as I said before earlier, for me it's a constant struggle to make sure I'm working on my business, to find the time to work on my business as opposed to just doing the daily work that takes up so much. So one of the objectives today I mentioned is to try and, in the letters, to try and produce 10 hours of me time that I can have to myself to work on the highest priority items that I want to work on, as opposed to everyone else's agenda. And also the mindset to overcome the obstacles we find through time management. I've got some tools for you. You've actually, in those little booklets you've got in front of you, you'll see there's a little tool set there. And then how to leverage time. And we don't want to be working harder, we need to be working smarter, because we don't want to be spending all of our life at the office working. We actually want to spend time with our friends, with our family, pursuing hobbies, developing ourselves as a total person. So how do we do that? Well, putting in more hours is not the answer. The reality today is we're getting flatter organisations, particularly in the West, than we had in the past. And so that means we're doing a lot more, and we're doing it higher quality. We've got to produce a lot faster because we're 24/7 now with the technology that we have. We're carrying around little computers in our hands called phones, which do just about everything. And so you cannot escape from work anymore. So speed, people expect things to be fast, and particularly in Japan. I find, if I am to get something to someone and it doesn't happen very, very fast, they ring me up, where is it? And I'm originally from Australia, and I probably wouldn't get that same pressure of speed turnaround that you get in Japan. And we've got to do it with less. We have less resources, less people to do it with. So it is a very tricky combination for us. So we're in constant pressure of time versus quality. Obviously, the longer time you have, the higher quality, but if time's under pressure, maybe quality suffers. Or if you diminish the quality, then that starts to affect your brand. Or you might find that quality and cost relationship starts to impact the wrong way. So trying to balance those things is a constant pressure. But one of the key things here is our time, because our time impacts on the quality of the whole organisation as a leader, our section as a leader, and also that relates to cost. The more productive we are, then the more beneficial it is to the company. We can reduce cost, or we can have greater revenues. So is this you? And this is an expression in English, I got lost in my job. It means that one of those days where you're so into a task or a project or something that the day just flew by. Suddenly it's, oh my God, it's 6 o'clock, it's time to go home or something. That type of idea that you are so much enjoying what you're doing, you're so into it, you're not interrupted, you can focus. That idea that the day just whizzes by. Is that you, or is this you? You look at the end of the day, I had all these projects, I got nothing done. Where did the whole day go? I feel very frustrated about that. I had things I wanted to do, but none of them were happening. So this is where we've got to start thinking. And one of the key questions we've got to keep asking ourselves is why? Why am I doing this particular task right now? Why am I doing that right now? And why am I working? Why am I working for this company? Why am I trying to do the things I'm trying to do? And if you have a little look in your little books here on page, I think it's page 5 from memory, page 5, you'll just see a list of questions there. I want you to write these down. You're not going to share this with each other necessarily, but you're just to start thinking about some things for yourself around the why. What are your greatest moments of happiness and fulfillment? What makes you feel very happy? What makes you feel very satisfied? It's on page 5. Everyone got it on page 5? And what are the activities that are of most worth in your professional life? Okay. What are the activities of most worth in my personal life? Because we very much believe in Dale Carnegie, the balance between work time and non-work time, particularly thinking about your personal life. Can't neglect that. And then what are the talents and capacities I have? Am I using them? Am I really focusing on them? Am I using a really magnificent, highly trained machine to do something very mundane, very mediocre? Am I wasting my energy and my talent on stuff that someone else should be doing, not me? And then finally, how can I best contribute to the world? And that may be through your company, it may be through a non-profit, it may be through just influencing other people. So just take a few moments and have a think about answering all or some of those questions to focus a little bit on you and why you are here, why you are doing what you're doing, why you are trying to move forward in your career. So please take a few moments. Okay, I'll just stop you there. You may not have gotten through the whole thing, but it's a very interesting exercise to reflect on yourself. Why are you doing things? Because often we're too busy concentrating on what we need to do and how we need to do it, and we need to step back and ask ourselves, why are we doing this? Particularly around using our talents. Now, this is a really, really critical question. This is a question we must be asking ourselves all through the day. Is what I'm doing now the most productive use of my time? The problem is we get into tasks and we start doing them because it's a routine, it's a habit, and we don't ask that question. But having looked at your aspirations there and looked at your talents and capabilities, when you think about that, you might think, you know what? I should not be doing this task. I should be getting someone else to do this task, or I should be doing less of this task. So it's a great question to keep asking yourself all through the day, because once you ask that question and you decide that what you're doing is not what you should be doing, then you can move on to the things that you need to be doing. Okay? Coming back to that why. Time is money is an expression in English. Time is money. And your time is expensive. If we take your salary and we divide it by the number of hours and we took your hourly cost, how are you spending that money? Now, the other thing is, in investing, the rule is you don't invest what's left over at the end of the month. You set a goal. You say, I'm going to save X per month, and you save that first. You pay, we say in English, you pay yourself first. Right? You pay yourself first. You give yourself the money first by banking it or investing it, and you live off what's left over. Very similar idea for time. Think about time is money. Pay yourself first with your time usage on the key things that are highest quality for you to be the best in your work, and leave everything else to fit into the rest of the time. Often we do it the other way around, like we would do with investing. We get to the end of the month and we've got a little bit left over, so we'll invest that. Well, we flip it around. Think of it like investing money, investing time, same sort of idea. Now, there are some things that rob our time, and these are externally. There could be meetings, it's a telephone call, someone interrupts us, there are mistakes, someone else, boss has got a deadline, lack of communication. All of these things come up to rob, to steal our time. All right? They come up. They're the external ones. All right? Then there's the ones we force on ourselves. We're not well organised. We put things off. We try to do too much. We have unrealistic time estimates to do a job. We think this will take half an hour. It takes an hour. We don't listen because we're too busy. This is a very famous diagram by Charles Hummel, developed a long time ago, and it'll apply forever. This will be one of those permanent quadrant diagrams that'll last for millions of years because it will never change. And what he said was, the tyranny of the urgent. Things that are urgent kill our ability to manage our time. And he's saying that it's things like they're important and they're urgent, like crisis, deadlines, meetings, that type of thing. We have to deal with those. But this one in number 2 here, it's not urgent, but it's important. This is where the value lies for us. We're aligning our vision and mission with what we're doing every day. The most productive use of your time is to execute on the vision, mission of the business, of your section. It's planning, getting things to happen in the right sequence, making sure that everything's counted for, clarifying values, making sure that you're talking to your team that what your company stands for is what you're actually doing as a leader. Working on relationships, building relationships with your colleagues, your peers, with your subordinates, with your superiors, with your clients, with your customers, and also process improvement. And Japan's extremely famous. I mean, the word kaizen, which usually gets pronounced kaizen, right, by English speakers, you know, kaizen is kaizen. It doesn't matter. They know what they mean. And what they mean is the Japanese idea of continuous improvement has now become a world standard. It's become a global word for that whole idea. They're the things that we need to be working on. But we get into things that are urgent but not important. The phone rings. Someone comes to see you. Email comes in. There's a voicemail. There's a report that lands on your desk. Someone just drops by your desk. Right? Or we have this one which they're not urgent and they're not important. So it's, you know, you're scrolling around the internet, get lost on the internet for a while, or you're looking at Facebook, or, you know, you're getting just stuff that makes you busy. This number 2 section here, this segment, by far is the most important. And in fact, in your booklets again, I've tried to take what is basically, what you have here is my own time management system. This is actually an editable PDF file, which you will find on our site, which you can download. I've just printed out the hard copy, but you can actually edit. It's PDF, but you can edit it. You can put in content and edit it. And the first one there, you see on the very first page, is mission statement. This is not the company mission statement. This is your own mission statement. This is my personal mission statement. I wrote my own mission statement up there. This is not to tell you how to write a mission statement. It's just to show you an example of how I see my mission statement for myself, the things that I aspire to. And again, I break all the rules of presenting by having more than 6 lines on one slide. But I'm putting up there not so much for you to read it and get the detail, but just to show you some of the things that are helping me to direct myself going forward. And this is coming back to the why. So on that, or in that PDF, you'll see there's a whole section there. What is your mission statement? What is your why? Get some focus around what you're trying to do. And then a second one there, you'll see, is my values. You'll see it lists up here, it says your values. Well, again, you can have all different types of ways of looking at values, but I write up my own values to give me some more of that why, some more direction around what I'm trying to achieve in my life. And it's not all, as you read there, it's not all work, you know. It's not all work. It's me as a total person in work, outside of work. So having this as a guide, and I read these every day. I have it in an organizer. I go through what's my mission statement, reminding myself of my why. I'm reminding myself of the things that I value, okay? Things that I value. And so I get those down. And then it reminds me, yes, you know, for example, I should be self-disciplined. I should stick with my time management system. You know, I should be looking after my financial independence. I should be making sure that those things that I need to do as an investor, or my tax return is going to be done on time, or what. I'm not going to sacrifice a low-level task at work for something that's a high-value task in my personal life. But I have to keep reminding myself of that balance, because my work will just take all the time if I let it. And this one is another one. On the next page, you see there, next couple of pages over. It's on page, what is that, page 6? Is that page 6, I think? Let me have a look. It talks about your roles. Have a look here. Yeah, page 6. Now, this idea is a very clever idea. Not my idea, it's a clever idea, someone else's idea, which I've followed, is to see yourself in total, not just as a company worker, whatever your role might be. In my case, I have a number of roles. I am a husband. I'm a son. I'm a father. So that is one critical role for me. And I'm also the president of the company. That's a different role. I'm the chief salesman for my company, doing what in Japan you call top sales, right? I'm doing that. I am a speaker. I'm a professional speaker. I represent Carnegie. I give training. I give lectures. I'm a friend. I have friends that I need to keep in contact with. You know, I am a professional. I have to keep learning. I have to keep developing myself. And I'm an investor, because I need to look after my family in the future. So in my case, there are the roles, and they, generally speaking, there's no limit, but generally speaking, I find that 7 roles is more than enough, right? You might have a lot, but you probably get them into about 7. So please take a moment on that page 6 there and write down what would be some roles for yourself. And I'll explain why that's important in a moment. So please take a moment and write down what are your key roles in your life. It doesn't have to be perfect for this morning, okay? You're looking at this. You can come back on the PDF, editable PDF, and make any changes you like. But the reason this is important is it allows us to focus on all of the things that help us to have a high quality, productive life. And we should not neglect certain key roles for the sake of others. And I know in Japan, when I studied Japanese politics and history when I was at university in Australia, we were taught, you know, Japanese men go to the company, work 25 hours a day, never see their kids, never see their wife, you know, spend the weekend sleeping on the golf course, have no life at all outside of work, right? That's what we've studied. Oh, that's how Japan works, right?
It's changed.
That's right, it's changed. It's changed, and it's a good change. And you yourself have to be careful, though, in that, you know, do more faster and better with less, that you don't find yourself working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. So having done that, pick one of them. You'll see on the next page there, it talks about each role. It goes through all 7 roles. It starts saying, well, it doesn't have to be role 1. You can pick any one of the roles you've got there, but think about some priorities. Now, this has already got them sorted into priority order, so that assumes you've actually gone through the process of lifting out what some goals might be for that role and got them into priority order. It doesn't matter at this moment that you have a priority determined, but what it asks you, though, is to think about each of those roles, and just say pick one, it could be any one of the ones you noted there. What is the goal for that role? Then, very importantly, why is that important? And then how are you going to achieve that goal? So please just take a moment, pick one of those roles, doesn't matter which one, think of a goal, write it down, this is the goal, what I want to do, why? Critical question, why is that important? And then how? And so with each of those roles, as I said before, if you go through all of those roles, each of them will have different priorities. And I try to get the priorities into order. A1, as you see here, A1, A2, A3. So they're prioritized. Here are the goals, they're prioritized. Here's the what of the goal, here's the why of the goal, here's the how of the goal. So I have a great clarity around what I'm trying to do. And again, I've got this for all 7 of my goals there, and I update them every year, and they change as things get done and new things come on. But every day before I start work, I go back. What's my mission statement? What are my values? What are my key roles in my life? And what are my goals? And this is what I'm doing before I set the goals for the day. Because if I didn't do this, I might just set the goals for the day around work. And it may be not the highest quality work goals either. And often I'll be going through this process and I'll remember, oh yeah, there's something that I needed to do for my mother, or there's something I needed to do to prepare for that speaking engagement that's not current, might be 3 or 4 months out. Oh, I've got to get that in my diary. Or there's something that I need to read to improve my professional ability. Or, yeah, I was talking about going on that course, I should get on that course. It reminds me, it prompts me that, yeah, this is the things I'm trying to achieve. This is the why of who I am and how I'm going to get there with my goals. So just go through that exercise. Let's say you'll get the PDF, you can download the PDF, and then you can go through that. But I've put a lot of things in this book around that, which you can fill out if you wish at any time. Because I've got this, you know, myself, my own organizer, and I find this system works extremely well. So just try the what of it, the why, and the how, just as an exercise, and then we'll keep going. Now I have to warn you that doing this every morning are the hardest decisions I make in the day. Trying to decide what I will prioritize. these are the hardest decisions I have to make in the day. Well, actually, it's the second hardest decision. The hardest decision is whether I get out of bed at 5 a.m. or not. That's actually the hardest decision. The second hardest decision is choosing between priorities. Where will I invest my time today? Because some of these are very tough. And when you go through this process, choosing priorities within each of those roles is very hard. But once you do it, it's done. But I warn you now, it is not an easy exercise. We have to really think. That's a bit tough in the morning, usually having to think. But it's very, very insightful when you do it. And it's very powerful as a tool. So we'll just hold it up there for a bit and keep going. One other thing we've got to be very careful on is we have a to-be list, not just a to-do list. Everyone can have a to-do list, but don't forget the to-be list, what you want to become, what your aspirations are, where are you going with your career, where are you going with your personal life. So we need to always be conscious that we must create a to-be list, not just a daily do list. Now, email. Who has a lot of emails? Everybody put your hand up. There's nobody in this room who doesn't have too many emails, all of us, right? At your tables, just have a brief discussion, table discussion, about what are the issues you find dealing with email. What are the things that drives you nuts about email? Okay, what are the things you find difficult about dealing with email? We don't have a lot of time for this, but I'm sure you can get out some of the problems pretty quickly because we all face them. So let's take a couple of minutes and discuss, share your frustrations and problems with email. Go ahead. Well, it sounds like you're having a good discussion there. Can I get some feedback from the tables on some of the things you talked about? What did you talk about on this table?
Yeah, we're pretty much the same idea. We have pretty much the same idea. And the excessive CCing.
Excessive CCing. Okay, that's a big issue, isn't it? You don't need to see it, but everyone copies you. Wow, what else?
Or long email.
Long emails. Okay. How about on this table? What are some things you talked about on this table?
We talked about, she was saying, well, there are too many alerts.
Alerts
doesn't really say not much about it, but makes you feel like, well, we got to react to it, then open it, then, well, doesn't really have to do anything.
So often you get something that looks urgent, you read it and you go, I just wasted my time opening that, but my time's now gone, right?
Right.
Yes.
The other feedback we had was a lot of emails, it's pretty tough to read the intention or the emotion attached to it, because you just send a mad or just doing the business, or depending on that, we have to respond accordingly. Then we tend to get frustrated. Should we treat it very carefully, or we can just deal with it all?
Okay, so sometimes people don't write very well, and sometimes a bit ambiguous what they write, and sometimes we don't know whether they're angry or attacking us, or we can misunderstand. How about on this table? What did you talk about?
We talk about the drowning.
About what, sorry?
Drowning.
Drowning?
Yes, because too many emails.
Too many.
Then, some important, you might forget.
Yes. So you got this huge filing list called email with a whole bunch of important stuff in there which just keeps getting added to all day long. Yes, exactly. That's the point, isn't it? If you think back, if we went back, say, before the internet, go back into the 80s, okay? If you had a big in-basket of paper and you dealt with that in-basket of paper from the top of what landed there last and just worked your way through the day going through that in-basket, your boss would fire you. Your boss would come in and say, you are a terrible time manager. You've got no prioritization in this filing list. It's only chronological of what's arrived most recently. You need to get that into some priority order and deal with the most important things first. That's what would have happened if it was all physical paper in the pre-internet days. We're getting exactly the same thing now. It's just coming digitally. And we're dealing in the same chronological fashion. So we've got to think about a few things to do with that. And one of them is the Pareto principle, right, which is the 80-20 rule. 20% of things are vital and 80% are not, basically. And he came up, his study, Pareto's study of Italy, of the wealth, that 20% of the people owned 80% of the wealth, 20% of the salespeople produce 80% of the results, 20% of the products make up 80% of the revenues, all those sorts of things. And, 20% of your staff provide 80% of your problems, that type of thing. But I added something to that. I call it the 80-20 80 rule. And this is the logical extension of how you apply your time usage to 80-20. We need to be concentrating 80% of our time on the 20% of things that produce 80% of the results. However, what can often happen to us though, is we find we're spending 80% of our time on the 80% of things that produce 20% of the results. Can you hear that? 80% of our time is going on too many things which actually don't lead to much. This is coming back to the why. If you've got your mission statement, you've got your values, you've got your roles and goals laid out, you know where you are going, you know why you're doing this, you know where to put your time, you know where to put your concentration. So that allows you to say, right, I'm going to really focus on the things, the 20% of things that are going to lead to 80% of my results. Now, this is the problem. Which activities create 80% of your results? Okay, so this is what we have to think about. So, is what I'm doing now the most productive use of my time? Was the question I had before. Is what I'm doing now the most productive use of my time, which will create 80% of the results? Is what I'm doing now where I should be spending my energy? That's this 80-20 rule. And so email, you look at that and you say, like you're saying before, I'm not going to look at the CC because that's just a copy to me. I'm going to differentiate, I'm going to prioritize within email what I need to concentrate on. And I'll look at the other stuff later. And so you can sort it out into folders, you can have them go directly, you can do all manner of things to try and get around that. The other thing is, another important idea is, we can't do everything. On my to-do list, I normally have about 25 to 30 items every day. Some days I get 0 done. 0. Not a good day, that one. Other days I get 1, or I might get 9. You know, I never get 30. I never get 25 because we just can't do everything. However, this is the critical part. You can do in every day the single most important thing you should be doing. You can do that. You can do that. And if you miss everything else, but only can achieve the most important thing on that day, you'll be very successful. Because you're getting the most important thing done every day. But we get confused about what's the most important thing, and we're doing everything. Well, stop trying to do everything. Work out what is the most important thing you need to do every day through a priority list, and start with that one. And don't do something else. This is the critical decision you have to make. So there are some power tools for you. The first one is this acronym, TRAF, which stands for, you pick up a paper or you look at an email on the screen and you decide, I don't need that. Delete or toss it in the bin. All right? Toss it in the bin straight away. Toss it out. Okay? The second one is R for refer. Oh, I'm not the person who should be doing this. So I forward it to someone and say, please do this. Or I physically pass it across to somebody and delegate it. Please do this. So I refer it to somebody else. Should be doing that, not me. A is action. It requires me to take some action, so I will action it. Now you may action it on the spot. If you can do it in 2 minutes, do it. If it's going to take longer than 2 minutes, put it in your diary, time control somewhere to prioritize it and do it later. It must get done though. But if you can do it in 2 minutes, just knock it off. If it's going to take longer than 2 minutes, prioritize it. And the last one is file. Now I am coming from a family where my mother has got everything she ever had. Never threw anything out. I go home and see my mother, there's piles of stuff everywhere. She never throws anything out. And I inherited that gene. I think I'm a bit of a hoarder. So I want to file everything. And then 6 months later, you go through your file, you realise most of it's rubbish, you don't need it, you throw it out anyway. But somehow it feels better. I should really keep that. Keep it, file it, but have a good filing system. So this is how you apply to be emails, you can file them, or physical paper. Now this is very critical. In your diary, if you want to get stuff done that's really critical, you've got an appointment calendar, and you may have appointments with people in the company or clients or whatever, so you've blocked out time for people. Pay yourself first. Block out time for yourself first. Make an appointment in your diary for yourself. For 1 hour or 1 hour and a half, there's an appointment with Greg Story. There it is. It's in the diary. It's blocked. Pay yourself first. Make an appointment with yourself, not just with everybody else. And you'll be surprised how easy it is to make time. This is also important. Have a weekly review. Think about, usually Friday afternoon's a good time. Go back through all the paper that's in your in basket and start tossing it out, filing it, referring it, or whatever you've got to do. Just clean it out. Because as it builds up, it becomes frustrating and you feel guilty. Friday, in, out, clean it up. Same with your email. Okay, these I'm going to put in this basket, look at it next week. These I'm going to delete, these I'm going to file. Just spend a couple of hours, get rid of it because it builds up. And as it builds up around you, your feeling goes downhill very rapidly. So weekly review works very well. And the other thing is time logs. This is tracking your time. Now you've probably got diaries. Try and make them a little bit more detailed. Maybe every half an hour, maybe every 15 minutes, what you're actually doing. Lawyers who get paid basically by every 15-minute blocks are required to do it so they can bill us for their legal services. It's not a bad model. The beauty of this with time logs is you can look at what you're actually doing. And what you'll find is there's lots of opportunity there to slim things down and save time. It's like finding nuggets of gold, little gold rocks on the road. They're there, but we're not seeing them. When you do the time log, you realize, yeah, look, I could cut that down there and I could take that out of there and I don't need to do that. I don't really need to go to that meeting. That meeting's too long or whatever. You'd be surprised how much time you can save when you actually start to put it down because you're too busy to keep check of what you're doing. Once you check, you realize, actually, there is a lot of space there for me to do stuff that's more high value to me. And this is block time. That's make an appointment with yourself and don't let people interrupt you. You tell everyone, for the next hour and a half, unless there's a major earthquake and the building's on fire and we have to evacuate, nobody interrupt me. I'm not taking any phone calls. I'm not looking at the monitor for the email. I'm not going to be interrupted. Or if you can go to a space that's outside your own workspace, because often with open space, work environments, it's very hard to do that. But if you tell everybody, for that period, I'm booked with me. A concentrated block time, because that's the most effective use of working on your business for planning, okay, for strategizing, doing the certain projects that only you can do. And then batching tasks is trying to put things that are rather similar together so the learning curve sort of stays at the same level. It's not going up and down all the time. You try and get the learning curve to here and just keep going with it. It's very efficient. Now, to-do priority lists, I believe, are very, very important. And I'm astonished, constantly astonished, of how many people do not have a to-do list that's prioritized in their day. I'm not going to ask you in your case, but I know from my experience when I do ask this question, a lot of people do not have anything like that. And I notice myself, the days that I have it and the days I don't have it are so different. So when you start, you go through your mission, your values, your roles, all the things you know you've got to do, write them down. Then put them into a prioritized list. And I talk about the ABCs. Attach, say, A1 to A10 are the most urgent, high value, most important items. B1 to 10, average value. C1 to C10, not so high value. D1 to D10, very low value. So you actually attach a number and a quality to each of those to-do list items. Once you arrive at the most high priority items, that critically is where you must begin. Do not go to B4 and start there. You start with A1. You can't do everything, but you can do the most important thing. That's where you start. And then delegation. We're going to deal with delegation in a moment. Get it off your desk and delegate it properly to other people so you feel comfortable about that. This is also very important. We have a lot of projects zooming around in our heads. Write them down. Spend some time, write down all the projects that you're working on, all of them, and start to get them into some list of priority. What are my higher priority items that I need to be working on? Because we've got things floating around, we're doing a bit here and a bit there, we've not got them ordered, we've not got them prioritized. And I say round up your projects. In Australia where I come from, they let the cattle run free. But you know, a couple of times a year they bring them all together again. They have to go and catch them, bring them together. They run wild and then you bring them together. It's a bit like our projects. Our projects run wild. We need to bring them together, stop free ranging and bring them together so we can start saying, well, that is a high priority project. I'm going to get that in my diary. That's a low priority project. I'm not going to work on that now. So with projects or problem solving or development items, here are 4 steps to help you work on that. So first of all, you get them prioritized and you start with the highest priority item. It might be a project you're working on, there might be a problem you need to solve, might be some development issue you need to work on. I'm going to send you all this PowerPoint too, by the way, so don't worry about that, you'll see this. And then step 2, well, again, why? Ask the question, why is the highest priority item important to our results? Keep reflecting on the why, not just the what and the how. And then, why is my vision, or what is my vision of how it would work? So if you see the problem being solved or the project being done, in your mind, how would that look? Get a vision, a clear picture of success. So you know what you're looking for and how to get there. You've got a lot of things occupying your mind, clarify that one. Then, is there going to be any rework required or is there duplication with something we're already doing? So you've got to make sure that that's very clear. Which part of the existing process accounts for most of the problems? You're looking for that, probably 20% of things is 80% of the difficulty. What are they? Really concentrate on those. In step 3, who are the internal and external customers or users of this process who might be involved? It might be clients, it might be colleagues. We try and identify who they are. Okay? And then what are they expecting from this process? What are they expecting from you? And what of their expectations are they not currently finding results for that you need to supply? And then finally, step 4, brainstorm together with the team, colleagues, write down the action steps. Action steps have priority items, and then you just do it. This is a great 4-step process of dealing with projects and development items and problem solving. So I'm going to talk a bit about delegation now. And you can't delegate unless you've established trust in your team. That is clear. You just will not get the cooperation. So how do we develop trust? Identify common ground, things you share, aspirations for the company. What's motivating that person? Find out what is driving them. What are they interested in? How can you help them? Give them the power to make decisions instead of you being micromanager. And give them opportunity to provide input. You want their ideas into the project. So we support a world we help create. So we need to let them help create that world. And then once you make a commitment, follow through on it. So creating a common sense of direction in your team, you know, how do we think about the market conditions? We've got certain budget constraints. What are they doing for us? What are individuals wanting to do? What are the customers driving us to do? What is management driving us to do? You know, what are the organizational challenges? You consider all of these things, and then you as a team are confronting all of these things together. So you're very much focused on, this is what we're trying to achieve as a group. Senior management wants this is what we have to do. You know, the customer wants this is what we have to do. We have time and budget. Remember that triangle of time, money and quality? We have these directing how we're going to do. So you start to get people to realize we together have this issue or these issues to face, to solve. And then with most delegation, it fails because the way people do it. And the way they do it is, they don't delegate, they keep doing it. So no one can get a chance to receive the delegation. Or they dump it. They just come along and say, oh, look, get this report done by Wednesday. Boom. And that's the end of it. That is highly ineffective. Because what will happen there is the person themselves feels, you know what, I'm already busy. I don't need your work. I've got my own work. I can't even do that. And you just turn it, I don't even know how to do this. So it's not a high priority for them. You think it's being worked on, but then you find out a day beforehand, nothing's been done. Then it's panic, urgent and important, quadrant 1, straight there. So the point here is we need to be distributing the work to the team, matching the person and the work. That's the ideal. And then we get into delegation. They do the work. And then finally, deputizing. You're not even there. You go on holidays, you go on a business trip, it gets done in your absence. So I'll talk a little bit more depth there. The 8 steps of delegation. The first thing is stop doing it yourself. Who has said, it's faster if I do it myself? Put your hands up. You've all said it. Come on, put your hands up. It's faster if I do it myself. We all say that. Because we don't trust the people we're delegating to. We think, well, I have to train them. It takes time to train them. It's faster if I do it myself. You'll be doing everything forever. Train them. And then you can let it go. So stop doing it, first one. Now, instead of looking around and seeing who doesn't look like they're on the phone and deciding, oh, great, you're going to be the delegator, E, pick the person in the project. Think about right person, right project. Select the person. Now, sell the delegation. What's in it for them? Explain how this is going to help their career, how it's going to make them more professional, more valuable, and it's not you dumping your work on them, it's helping them to grow in their career. Show them how to do it. Give them instruction on what needs to happen so they're not thrashing around wondering, what do I do next? Then watch what they're doing. Don't abandon them. Don't micromanage them, but just watch and then coach. Because it often happens, I say, right, I want this to go this way. And then about, 5 seconds before it's due, I found out they went that way instead. Who would have thought to go that way? But that's what happened. So you don't want that to occur, so you check. We are going in the same direction as I needed to go on the way through. Then let it loose. Don't micromanage it, let it loose. It's not like, pulling a plant out of the ground to see if it's growing all the time, right? Leave it in there, let it grow. Then give them some feedback and follow up on how the steps are going, and then reward and celebrate, okay? Reward and celebrate good work. Hold people accountable. Be careful about buying it back. Oh, look, give it back to me, I'll do it. Because they may not do it very well. Oh, look at this, you've gone the wrong way. Oh, give it to me, I'll do it. No, instruct them in what they need to do. Don't buy it back. Don't bring it back onto your back. Or they come back to you, well, I need a decision on something. Now it's blocked because you're busy and you don't want to think about that decision. So you're stopping them. You've got to make that decision, hand it back to them, because otherwise it gets just locked, it goes nowhere. And then accountability, right? When does it need to be done? What is the quality it needs to be done by? And then for follow-up, very clearly define the results. What you expect it to look like at the end. Communicate the standards at the beginning. How will you know the standards of performance are being met? Make those very clear. Things change, so you have to be flexible. If some new information comes in, you might have to re-gear it. That's okay. Be flexible about it. And look for the win-win situation with the team. So I talked about saving 10 hours a week for me time. Here's how you could possibly do that. Every day for 1 hour, you have in your diary schedule me time, appointment with yourself, don't interrupt me, okay? If you can make it an hour and a half a day, then you get 7.5 hours a week right there out of the 10. Come to work 12 minutes earlier, and that'll give you an extra hour, okay, in the week. If you come 30 minutes earlier, it'll give you an extra 2.5 hours. For some people with long commutes, that may be not possible. Shorten your lunch by 12 minutes. And that's going to give you an extra hour a week. You shorten your lunch by 30 minutes, which is basically, I find about how long it takes me to eat lunch, get an order and get it eaten and come back to the office takes about half an hour. You're gaining an extra 2.5 hours a week. Or slightly shorten each and every meeting. If you just chop 5 minutes off here, 3 minutes off there, you could get up to 30 minutes a day, which is 2.5 hours a week of extra time for you. And most meetings are way too long. And often you shouldn't even be at that meeting. If you can delete the meeting, even better. And then if you can actually get out 60 minutes a day from all those meetings that you're in, might be 6 meetings a day, you take 10 minutes off each, make them shorter by 10 minutes, well, you just picked up an extra 5 hours a week. So there are some ideas about how to find time to work on you. And you have your manuals there. And you'll see in the back of your manuals there's an article that will be published probably in the American Chamber Journal in the next couple of months, I guess. I'm not quite sure when they're going to publish it, on how to work on your business and not in your business. So let me take any questions you might have in the remaining time we have about anything we've covered or anything else we have not covered. So who has the first question? Yeah, please.
How regularly, or say you have a mission statement and your values, is there ever a time that you change those in your life?
The question is, with the values or the mission statement, how regularly do we change those? Yeah, I update mine. I find, though, that with the mission statement, it tends to stick. I've sort of, over a long last 20 years, I've been refining it. So I've finally got it to a point where it basically covers. The values, too, they generally tend to be consistent. Slight changes over time. It's probably around the goals in my different roles that change, because the goals get done. You know, you've got a certain, it gets done, like that's done. Or the goal drops out because situation has changed. Or I've got a more pressing goal that I need to work on, I bring that in. So that's where I find the variation is more in the goals and roles, the what, why and how part changes for me. Yeah, here's the next question. Yeah, please.
What would be the tips from you to maintain or keep reminding myself to do the most important and urgent thing? And I mean non-urgent things.
Yes. So the question is, what is a tip on how to remind myself to make sure that I'm doing the most productive thing every moment with my time? I think the tip I would give you is before you start it, before you get into it, like the email comes, you think, oh, well, I've got to answer that. Before you go to that point, say, is answering this email the most productive use of my time? You might think, I can probably do that later, and you skip it. Go back to your priority list for that day and look and say, what's a higher priority that I need to get done first? If that email is a priority, you can add it to the list, or it can go on the next day's list. So I think it's before you actually get started, because once we get into the item, the time's gone. You've already started. It's too late then. You've already gone. So before you start, is what I'm about to do the most productive use of my time at this moment? Is this part of my list of priorities for today that I need to achieve? If it's important, capture it, and then maybe assign a lower priority to it on that day or a higher priority the next day, because it may not be something you have to do on that day. And for my to-do list, I'm constantly transferring things across. If they don't get done on this day, I pick them up for the next day and I just write them down again, add the new priorities, and I reprioritize the whole thing. I start again. Because a priority on, say, a Wednesday may change. There may be a more urgent priority on the Thursday. So it'll still be there. It doesn't get lost. That's the key. It doesn't get lost. But the priority issuance will change. There's the next question. Yeah, please.
You talked about making a to-do list every day in the
Yes.
morning and trying to also update your goals
Mhm.
every day. How many minutes or how many hours are you putting every day for just making a to-do list?
Yeah, I'd probably spend about, well, the question is how many minutes a day do I spend working on going through the mission, the values, and working up the priority list? I would probably spend around about 10 to 15 minutes a day on that, because I try to read through everything, remind myself of my why, get down all my priorities, transfer the priorities from the previous day that didn't get completed into today's priority list, add the new things. I'll scan email. Anything that comes up, oh, that's got to be done, put that down, but don't do it. Sometimes with time difference, because we have a headquarters in New York, I might actually have to do something straight away because just the time difference. There's a zone where there's an overlap. I say, well, I'm going to make that the priority. I can do it in 2 minutes, boom, get it done. So basically about 10 to 15 minutes. but it's uninterrupted time. And I find, oh, it's sad. It's really sad. The difference between the days when I prioritize and the days I don't prioritize. It's sad. The difference is so huge. I'm so much less effective on those days where the prioritization didn't get done. And it happens sometimes. Something happens, you know. Like today, I haven't done it today. I have to go back to my desk now and do it. But I might get sucked into a whole bunch of things and not do it. And today will be a disaster compared to if I did do it. So I'm telling you now, that simple act, and it's very tough to make the choice. Oh, is this one more of a higher priority than that one? Don't fret over that too much. Get the most important things done. You'll be doing very, very well. Here's the final question. I think you were first, just by a whisker, but I'll come back to you. We'll add an omake there and do an extra one.
I want to ask you about the to-do list and to-be list. Sometimes to-do list could be go on and on from A10 to C10.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to, cover everything a day, but still you go back every morning, go through your to-do list. How do you reshuffle, reprioritize the leftover priority?
Well, the question is about the to-be list and the to-do list, and with the to-do list, how do you reshuffle the priorities? The to-be list is a long-term thing. In the back of that little Success Focus book, you've got long-term goals. Your to-be list is usually your long-term goals. The reshuffling is, as I transfer them across and add to them, I just go through the list and I decide, well, that was a higher priority yesterday, I didn't get done, but something's happened in that day that trumps that just overtakes that by time urgency or value. And I just rewrite it, because I'm always writing in pencil, and I often have to readjust the numbers. I have to say, well, that was an A7. It's now got to become an A3 because something's happened. Although rarely I actually bother doing that. I just move it up mentally and then just keep going. But I must come back to A4. I shouldn't go to B5 or something. I've got to stick with the trick is the highest priority items must get my time. Last question over here.
Okay, to me, it's still like 10 hours per week for me time.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite long. So just wondering, so me time, what's the clear definition of me time? Is it like something not only professional but maybe personal, just thinking about me, or?
Me time, the question is about me time, thinking that 10 hours a week seems a lot for me time. The me time I'm talking about there is professional. It is in your job, working on your business. That means planning, direction, thinking about the critical items of your business, rather than just doing the routine daily work of your business. And so what we're asking you to do here is step back, look at the tasks and say, okay, which ones will advance the business more than others, and I should concentrate my time there, as opposed to I'm doing routine work, or I'm doing detail work, or I'm doing something that takes time but doesn't help me directionally. That's why I said before, the key question is why. Why are you doing this? Why are you working in this section of the business? Why are you trying to achieve these things? If you're refreshing those in your mind, then you will make the me time. The me time is, it could be a project you're working on, and you say, I'm going to give an hour every day to that particular project or projects. And I'm just going to concentrate on that one thing. Or I've got a particular report, I'm going to spend an hour every day putting that report together. And I'm not going to be interrupted by anything else, because this is a very high priority for me. That's what me time means. It's not me time as in, I'm going to go to Starbucks and have a cup of coffee for an hour. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it's work related, it's specific, it's high value, it's something usually only you should be doing, because if it's someone else can do it, delegate it. It's something only you can do that's really going to make a difference on the direction of the business. We're at time, so let me say thank you very much for coming out this morning. I hope you enjoy that. You will find that PDF file on our site, and we will email you the PowerPoint from today, so you've got it as your own record. So I hope to see you again. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.